Hey guys, welcome back to the Waxing Table podcast. I'm Michaela. And y'all, today I'm excited for this episode because it's a little mash up, a little collaboration with my girl Ausha Marie. She is the owner of Brazilianology located in Columbus, Ohio. What's up, girl? How are
Hey,
you?
I'm great. It's so nice to be here with you today, and I'm so excited. And I love those headphones.
Thanks, girl. I love them too. Okay, so introduce us. Who are you? And, where are you from? Tell us all about you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, my name's Ausha, but sometimes people call me Ausha Marie, so I just took it and ran with it. And I currently live in Columbus, Ohio. I've been an esthetician for 8 years now, going on 8 years now. And I'm originally from Tallahassee, Florida. I moved up here some time ago and actually moved up here for a relationship that I was in. But it ended and I had to kind of fend for myself. So, yeah, I just been up here ever since. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so you are an esthetician. So how long have you been an esthetician and when did you go to school and how did you even find out about what an esthetician is?
Okay, that's a really good question.
Hmm.
So, I got my license in 2015 and I went to a small Black owned school called the World Class Academy of Beauty Careers in Tallahassee, Florida. It's right next to FAMU. If you're familiar with FAMU, it's HBCU. So
Wow,
lots of
wait.
kind of crossover between like in the market in that area. But anyway, I found out about it because I've always been into fashion and beauty is kind of like parallel to that. So I went to college for fashion and then I got kind of tired of working in retail and not seeing my family on the holidays when I wanted to. So um, working with like models for fashion shows and things like that, like I just kind of thought like, well, what if I could be the person that has more of an influence? So I thought maybe doing their skin or like facials or makeup or just something related to that would make more sense and I would get more gratification out of it versus just, oh, what you're wearing. So I just started Googling it. And then that's when I learned what an esthetician was. And then all the different things that come with it, like being a makeup artist or being a waxer or a facialist, which is what I thought I wanted to be at first. So that's when I decided that I wanted to go to school for it. So something about me is that I'll have an idea and then I'll just kind of like tuck it away. And then if it keeps coming up, that's how I know like I need to just go ahead and do it. And that's how beauty school was for me. So I decided to just go out on a limb and try it. And it was definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so you said that your school is Black owned. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, how was that experience? I love it.
Yes. Shout out to Miss Renee. She's the owner of the school. But it was awesome. I felt seen. And because it was small, I was the only person at that time in my program. So I'm in class with cosmetologists, with people who are going there for barbering, of course, for like the book work. And then it was kind of cool to just branch off and then they go in their own sections. And then it's just me all, I had this whole facial esthetician area to myself when it came to doing the services. So it was nice because I learned a lot from her. I learned about just being more vocal and more is being more what's the word I'm looking for? Just being willing to be seen. I used to be very shy and kind of like I wanted to be mysterious and like behind the scenes, but I learned by going to that school that especially if you are a small business, that you have to be willing to talk to people and you have to be willing to be confident and stand strong and be noticed.
That's so true. You got to put yourself out there.
Yes,
You got to be
yes,
uncomfortable. and put
Very.
yourself out there. But I'm so happy that you had a good experience. I think our schooling experience really like sets the tone in a lot of ways for our career. So I'm so happy for that, for you in that you felt seen and heard, because I think that's so important. Just as like an educator, for someone to really make sure that that person is really getting and retaining the information, and they're catering to their learning style. So I think that's amazing.
I did learn one more thing I wanted to also mention. So I mentioned it's a small school. This just happened this summer. I went back home to visit and I drove by and they had built onto the school. So since the last time I've been there, it's expanded and their classes are larger. So just seeing that firsthand, that growth I think that's definitely had a major influence on me as well.
Oh, I love that. I love when you can go back and revisit like our, past places and things that we've gone through, and we see the growth in that. So that's cool. That's amazing. I have to keep up with it, and I'll put the name of your school in the show notes too. That way people can also take a look at that beauty school just in case they're listening and they're in the same area. So
Definitely. Aw.
yes, of course. So when you were in school, at what stage, like in your life, was this like your first career? Was it the second career? Was this like, what were you doing before this, as far as like, your job and everything goes?
Yeah, so I had my bachelor's degree in fashion merchandising. And so I was working as a mobile merchandiser. So I was traveling to small cities or different cities in the tri-state area close to me, like Tallahassee, Mobile, Alabama, Valdosta, Georgia. And I would go back and forth and do jewelry displays for a company that works with Old Navy. So I was working at a bunch of Old Navies. And I really enjoyed the job. It's just that if you ever worked in retail, you know that Black Friday, there's no days off. You can't take off. In my position, I had to go to multiple stores twice on Black Friday. So I had 3 stores I was in charge of. I had to take 6 visits to 3 different stores in 3 different states.
Wow, on Black
in one
Friday.
day. Man, it
Wow.
was terrible. Yeah, and it's just I prefer to be with my family on holidays, and I like to the idea of not working on the holidays. So that for me, I couldn't take it anymore. So I was just trying to figure out how to pivot in my career without taking a big L. And so I started working for a different merchandising company, but I was working with grocery stores, which I think it went downhill from there because they don't care nothing about beauty. They just want these shelves, dusty shelves stocked. And the team that works at the store, like I was working with like small grocers like Harvey's and I think Food Lion, I think is one of them. But anyway, yeah, they didn't care nothing about none of that. They just want you to get it done. And it was a lot of physical labor, and I did not like that at all. So I was like, let me get back to something a little more dainty. So
I love that.
yeah. So I was working for 2 merchandising companies and decided to go to school full time. And I had a small business already that I was operating. So I was working with cosmetics at that time. So it was stressful.
Ah, man, that is a lot. But now, from that transition to going to school, now, what do you think that you feel in the moments that you look back on? You're like, man, I came from this, I came from that, and here I am. Like, I'm over here waxing people's hairs off all day.
Yes, I wish I could go back in time and talk to my younger self all the time. Like, I know this is a season that you're in, that you're going to get through it, and there's going to be so many more blessings on the other side. Because there were days where I was like, man, like, is this even a good investment? Am I going to really do well in this industry? Is it too competitive? How am I going to stand out? And I'm glad that I just kept going, because the thing that was attractive to me about that school was that the program I was in, I was done with it in like 4 months. So I was like, okay, it's not that much time. Let me just do this.
Oh, that's good. What are the requirements for your state for the hours?
Oh Lord, I don't remember. I think maybe it was 1,200. No, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, girl, I don't remember, to be honest with you. I wish I did.
I think it's
I
so
was like, I got my
interesting.
hours, I'm out.
Right. Okay. Peace.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's so interesting
But
how every state is different.
yeah, I learned that Florida is actually a little bit, I don't know if it still is, but at the time I realized Florida's requirement is a little lower. So
Mm-hmm.
thank
Yes.
goodness for that.
Right. For Texas, it's 750. So that's
Hmm.
about half, I guess, the time of cosmetologists, of hairstylists and stuff. But I'm thankful because I'm like, okay, 6 months, I can do 6 months, no, at the
Yeah.
latest. So,
I think it was 600 hours then. It had to be.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk waxing real quick. So, what is your favorite service to perform? What service do you like doing the most?
The Brazilian wax, hands down. What waxer does it think? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No, really.
Yeah, the
I
Brazilian.
agree. I agree. I could do Brazilians all day. I'd
Hmm.
rather do Brazilian wax, like 10 of them in a day or 20 of them in a day or something, than
Yeah.
like brows all day. I love doing brows though, but I feel like Brazilians are just, they're quick, they're easy. It's really just
Mhm.
technique and it's done.
I feel like with Brazilians, I go into like a muscle memory mode. Like I'm just
Yes.
doing it, and then I look up and it's done. So when I
Mm-hmm.
see my like literally all Brazilians, I'm like, ooh, it's gonna be a good day. Like I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
stop and do a full face or like stop and do a full leg or nothing. I can just boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way. Okay, so what are some unpopular opinions in the
Hmm.
waxing world? Because we get taught, we get trained on certain techniques and certain things and all the detail stuff, but some things have a lot more leadway than what we were actually taught.
Hmm.
So for example, when it comes to waxing, the grain of rice hair growth, they say that all you need is a grain of rice. I think that's way too short. I think it's way too short. Because, say, for example, like a client comes in and they're freshly waxed and they have that just enough, that grain of rice. I mean, not freshly waxed, sorry, freshly shaved. So their hair is super dense. They're coming to you for the first time and it's just at a grain of rice. In my
Hmm.
opinion, I don't think that the hairs can be removed as effectively as if they were to be grown out at least another week or so. My ideal would be, okay, give me 4 weeks of growth and then I could then we're good. I can see you. So that's my opinion.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Well, based off of what you said, I think you made a really good point. I definitely think it's situational
Hmm.
because I have had that instance where it was the size. First of all, let's just not forget there are different grains of rice out there.
Right.
So,
Come on. We got long
but
grain,
anyway,
short grain.
yeah. But I've had people come in and it's that minimum length, and you're
Hmm.
right, it doesn't come out, it doesn't budge. But surprisingly, I've had a couple clients where it does, and I'm shocked
Yeah.
myself. I'm like, I'm gonna try my best, and then it
Yeah.
comes out flawless, and I'm like, so
Okay.
it might even depend on the wax. It depends on obviously the
The
person,
client, yep.
but of course that's too long to say when you're marketing. So whoever came
Right.
up with the rice was just trying to get people to visualize and come in. So
Right. That makes
yeah.
sense. And I totally get that for sure.
Mhm. A popular opinion. I believe that the customer is not always
Girl,
not always right.
say it again, okay?
Customer is not always right. They don't know.
Preach.
Like they don't always know everything you know. You are the one
Hmm.
who's licensed. You have the information. And just because they think their hair is long enough doesn't mean it is. And just because they think that let's see, what's another thing? Ugh, I don't want to say this, but I feel like I feel
Say it,
like
girl.
everyone who says they have sensitive skin don't have sensitive skin. Like
Don't.
at least not in the Brazilian area. Cause
Yeah.
like people come in, I have sensitive skin, and then like their skin's comparatively normal.
Hmm.
So it's like, what were you
Yes.
worried about again?
Exactly. Right.
But on top of that, I think that I think that if you have a policy in place that's unpopular, like a deposit or a short notice or no show policy, the customer is not always right, because if they sign something that said that they agree with the policy, then you need to uphold that policy. Like, and if
Exactly.
they're mad, then it just means you're not a good fit for this business. So I believe that.
I believe that too. I'm right there with you, girl. The customer
Mhm.
is not always right. And just like you were saying, like there's sometimes where there's the policy, or say a client is on like, a membership or something. They're consistently coming to this business, and there's contracts, there's written, you know, membership
Foreign.
terms and all these things that they have to sign. But then when something happens and it comes down to it, certain clients, not all clients, but maybe some certain clients will try to find leadway and wiggle room. And you gotta stand your ground, because it could be so easy for clients to kind of just push over a little bit and kind of see what they can take, and it's not cool. So
Especially if you're a solo SD,
yeah.
because I feel like, I don't know if this is everyone's experience, but I feel like when I was working by myself, I got that a lot more, or it felt like I got that more, just because they think, oh, it's just you can override it, but you still have to stand your ground. And then, of course, when you have others that you're working with, it's a lot easier to say, even being the owner, like people are like, oh, well, you can just, and I'm like, well, actually, it's not my policy. It's Brazilianology's policy. So I gotta abide by that. So yeah.
Exactly. Yep. I agree.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's transition a little bit. So we're going to be talking a little bit about like some procrastination,
Mhm.
um, some learning from our mistakes, a little bit of, kind of some really good topics that I think that that I know I struggle with. I struggle, okay? But before we get into that, I want to use this moment to plug in what you do. So, our listeners, we are talking to a fellow podcaster here. Yes, and
Well,
I want to know how you got started. What like made you think about, hey, I'm gonna do a podcast. So tell us all about your podcast, the name of it, how it got started, and all that. All that.
well, I want to start off by saying I love podcasts, and it took me 2 years to finally just do it. So 2 years of pondering, and you remember I said if I have an idea, if it just keeps nagging at me, then I know it's time to do it. That's what
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened. So I started to realize it was who I was talking to that was the problem. For example, I would tell certain people, not everybody, that I had an idea to start a podcast. So I would tell some clients that I was close to, and they were gung ho. They thought I should go ahead and do it. They were cheering me on. But I do remember this instance where I told another person, a cosmetologist who I knew, and I like to kind of bounce ideas off of people who I'm close to. And I think I remember her saying, like, I don't know who's going to listen to a podcast just about waxing. And I'm glad that I just ignored that, but it did kind of bother me for a little bit. So I think that's part of what made me drag it out for 2 years and not doing it. But what made me do it was getting tired of talking about it,
Mm.
um, and finally having a name for it.
I love the name. What's your podcast name?
It's called Wax About It, the Wax About It podcast. And how it came to be is so I don't know if you have like a few clients who just become your friends after so long,
Mm-hmm.
but I have one client who turned into my friend who also does my lashes. So I was getting my lashes done and we were talking about it, and she was like coming up with these ideas, and she was like, well, what are you going to talk about? And I said, waxing. She was like, wax about it. And it was just so instant. And I was just like, that is catchy. And then I just kind of
Right.
sat on it for a few days, and I was like, okay, the name ultimately doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Let me figure out what I'm going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I just at first decided that the podcast would be to educate people who were thinking about waxing. So more client based or um, customer based content. But then after a few episodes, I quickly noticed that more people who wax can relate to the content and relate to my side of the story. So it transitioned by season 2 to more industry focused content.
Nice. Well, you guys go check out her podcast. It is called Wax About It, and it's on all platforms, right?
Yes, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I have a website, and then it's on, those other little podcast websites here and there. So
Nice.
I'm sure you'll find it.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the deep stuff.
I'm ready. This is like perfect timing in my life right now.
I know, right? Okay, so. Hey, SD Bestie. Okay, so let's be real. We all know that the wax you use can make or break your business. Are you struggling to find the right wax? Is your current wax breaking and leaving hairs behind? Well, honey, I got you, because Nova Wax is here to rescue you from the headache. Nova Wax is low temperature, never breaks, and will cut your waxing time in half. Use code Thewaxingesthetician to save 15% off on your order. Come join the Nova fam. Let's talk procrastination first. Okay. Do you struggle with procrastination? I know I do.
Yes.
I struggle with it a lot. And I think sometimes it comes from a place of like not having a plan and not like writing things down. If I know I have to do stuff, I'm just putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Mm-hmm. And I'm not actively looking at it on my calendar every day, then it just never gets done. So I push off things a lot. And I think because sometimes maybe I just want to avoid it. I want to avoid this huge list of things that seem so scary, I guess, to do. What about you? What do you think procrastination sometimes may come from?
Well, since I became a mom and since I started therapy, I've been able to change my thought process around procrastination. I look at it now as prioritizing, and some things that I procrastinate, I'm not procrastinating just for the sake of putting it off. I'm procrastinating because there are other things that are more important and that need my attention more, my limited attention, by the way, than that. So I think that what you said about writing it down, putting it in your calendar, I think that's one of the ways to tame it, because at least you're putting it somewhere versus just trying to keep it all in your head and then it just never gets done, or it gets done the day of. So procrastination is, you know what? I don't know. I guess I'm at a point now where I'm just like, listen, I'll get to what I can get to today and I'll be proud of that. And I'll get to what I can do tomorrow and be proud of that and just keep going. And it's been working so far. So
that's amazing. I think that's so good. And like the way we talk to ourselves is important. Not beating ourselves up if something doesn't get done. Now I get it, like deadlines, we gotta meet the goals and whatever we need to do. But I think it's important to still give yourself grace and say like, hey, I'm a human. I got mom things to do, I got household things, or just whatever it is that life is, that you have that has your attention, in other areas. Like, it's okay. So but I think I wanted to highlight it just because I think it's important to just kind of talk about, and because it can get to a point where it's unhealthy, where it's like you're avoiding things for way too long, things that actually need to like get done, like say for instance, and it's gonna get done, but say, for instance, one of the goals that I set was, hey, I'm going to make sure that I have a constant flow of doing the dishes, right? The dishes that always just never end, it seemed like in my house. The constant flow of doing the dishes, but I'm not actively practicing a system to keep that goal there. I'm not actively like, hey, let me make sure I've got, let me put up these dishes that have been just sitting in the dishwasher. Let me start the load. Having like something in place where it's going to help you reach that goal. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. If I may, what kind of system can you put in place for doing the dishes? Okay,
Well,
some areas.
it varies for sure, person to person, family to family. For me, I have my family to help. So my daughter, she's 8, and I have my husband. So a system would be, let me utilize the people in the house, the people who actually are eating out of these dishes as well. Like, it's not just all on me. So it's like, if your assignment or if your chore list or something is, hey, let's do these dishes by the end of the day. At least take them out of the dishwasher. That way there's a clearing for me to put, dirty dishes in there. It just kind of helps flow things better.
I think that you just said something that is very key. And well, you didn't say it, but you led into it, and that's delegating.
Yes.
I think procrastination also comes from trying to take on too many things and then not setting realistic deadlines for those things. So something I've gotten better at these past 3 years is, well, maybe 2 years is, hold on, how old is my son? Okay, 2 years is delegating. And once I got better at doing that, it feels like I'm not procrastinating as much because I'm not trying to do everything. I'm always trying to take on what I can take on. And then I set goals a little further out than what I usually do. And that's been helping too. Like, before I could be like, okay, I can get this done by next month, or, and now I'm like, by the end of the season, it'll get done.
I
and
hear
that
you,
way, if
girl.
I do it sooner, I feel better and I feel more
Yes.
worthy of a reward.
Yes. I love that. And I completely agree. So you said something that's really great. Is the next question was, how do we overcome this? How do we start to, delegate? Or how do we start to, put the system in place? And you said delegation. So that's key. That's literally what I do. You got to have a team, even if it's a team of one, helping you doing something. So.
And there's apps for everything now too. You know how many productivity apps are out there now? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's crazy. There's an app. There's an app that you can download. I don't know the name of it, but I've seen ads for it that can help you clean your house. And all it is a glorified checklist of every little detailed task, so that when you check it off, you feel good. And then you just keep on going. And the app gives you little notifications.
Nice. Hey, I love things like that.
Me too.
I like to know that I'm making progress somewhere.
Yes, I heavily utilize my notes app on my phone, because you can put the little check. I don't know what they're called, but the little circles that you can check off. I love that. So when I feel overwhelmed, I'll just make what I call a master list. And on this master list, I don't try to organize anything. I just write everything in my head that I feel like I need to do. And then once I finally get it all out, that feels good. And then I can go through and be like, okay, some of these I can actually do now that I've written it down. And then some of these are going to take some time, but at least now I know that, and I can put it over here.
I love that idea. Actually, I'm in the middle of like trying to organize my life. And so I'm scrambling like all these things that I have to do. And I love that idea though. Like, you just write them all down, don't worry about organizing it at all. Just write it all down. And then from there, you can kind of take it step by step.
Yes, it's very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of journaling, writing, like lists. I love that.
Yes. Okay, so what do you do when things don't work out how you thought it would? When we make mistakes? I know that can be answered in multiple different ways, but say, realistically, you have a client, right? And it's a first time client, and you're doing your thing. It's their brows of all things. You're doing it, and you're in your system how you normally have your technique, all the things. And then somewhere in the process, maybe you're tweezing, maybe you're trimming, and you take off a little bit too much. and you wanted to, what do? Do you own up to that moment and just say, hey, this is what happened, or I just want to let you know, or do you just kind of like fill in a little bit with a brow pencil, call it a day?
That's definitely happened to me maybe a couple of times. And it depends. To be honest with you, it depends on where it is. For example, if it's right here in the start of the brow, like something that's not easy to hide away from, um, honestly, I'll try to brush it and see if it'll cover. And if it doesn't, then of course I'll own up to it and I'll ask them. I guess I'll come up with like, okay, an immediate solution. Like, okay, I'm going to tell her or him, her, or um, I'm going to tell them what happened, but I also need to know how to fix it too. I don't want to just be like, oops, sorry. I can say, okay, I can even them out. They might be a little thinner than normal, but they'll grow back. Or we can fill them in with a pencil. What would you like to do? And depending on what direction they take it, I'm willing to offer a discount. I think that's fair. Free, I don't know, but I'm definitely willing to accommodate them however I need to, not especially, but being a first time client, I know first impressions are key, and that's definitely not a good one. So I'm not argumentative or defensive at all. I messed up, but this is what we could do to fix it. Now, if it's the tail, that's
the
bad.
tail.
That's probably bad. That's probably worse.
That's hard to recover from right there.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely believe in, when I hear people tell stories like that, they always feel worse when the person tries to hide it or they don't mention it or they ignore it. So I would definitely want them to know what happened before they leave versus getting home, finding out, writing a bad review about it. So
absolutely, I agree. The best thing that you could do is just to own up to it and just say, hey, we took a little bit more often when we planned today, but having a solution behind it, like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to offer to even them out? Are you going to offer a discount? Are how are you going to fix it, basically, in a sense? So I think that's super key. Owning up to it. There's no way around it, especially because part of our jobs is having customer service. I think it's so easy it's hard to get good reviews, but it's so easy to get bad reviews. So it's like, always keep that in mind, because it can just take someone situation like that to just go off and, write a bad review. And granted, we can't make everybody happy, of course, but, we want to do everything that we can. So
I wouldn't even expect them to come back. Honestly, I'll just be like, hey.
Right.
If he doesn't come back, I understand. That's on me. But after moments like that, of course, you have to just let that feeling pass, feeling like beating yourself up about it, feeling like you could have did better, feeling like you should have did something different. But we all have to go through those moments. So you just got to learn from it and remain humble and just do better.
Right. Learn from that mistake.
Yeah.
Keep progressing forward. I remember when I first made a mistake, it was in beauty school, and you're learning at that point. Yeah. And I made a mistake, and I like started to cry. It's like that first moment, and I wanted to do it right, and I thought I was doing it right, but I didn't, and I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm
on the spot.
Yes, girl, I cried on the spot.
Oh, you felt so bad.
I did. I felt really bad, but you live and you learn. I was determined to learn and not give up. So you'll get there. Just continue to go and grow.
Gotta continue. And honestly, that might be a moment where you realize what your strengths are. Some people who wax eyebrows are not their strength, and they will tell you. And that's okay. That's the thing I love about this industry. Once you get to a more flexible point, you can decide, okay, I want to focus on these things versus everything.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, so I always close with a little bit of self-care talk. So we are self-care givers. We give so much to our clients and to the people around us, and sometimes it can be hard, especially as mothers, to take a little bit of a piece for ourselves. So, what does self-care mean to you? Number one, and what way are you going to try to implement that this week into your life?
Self-care means showing love to myself and showing grace to myself, loving on myself. And, I've talked about it for a long time now. And in this season of my life, I'm relearning what it means. So for me, it means literally taking time out of my schedule for myself and not worrying about texting anybody, not worrying about, I'm sorry, but not worrying about my son for a little bit, and just what do I want in this moment? What's going to make me happy in this moment? And it's really hard to separate what I want for my business and what'll make me happy professionally sometimes for me. So I'm learning to figure out who I am outside of work again. So that might mean for this week, especially, let's see, something self-care. I know massages are really good. I love massages. I love getting my nails done and going for a walk or journaling. Okay, but it's not really. And I know it's hard for me to do those things a lot more now than it used to be. So trying to make it more of a priority, like, okay, it when I think of self-care, sometimes I think it's hard to budget in because it seems more like a leisure expense. But I'm trying to trick myself into thinking like, no, this is actually mandatory. Like this has to be part of the budget because it means it'll make me happy. If I'm not happy, then I won't enjoy anything else in my life. So this week, I already had a massage, so I guess I already kind of indulged in that. But just taking some time to just kick my feet up and not do anything. Like on my day off, if I have like a part of my day where I'm not cleaning the house up, I'll just sit down on my couch, which I rarely do, and just be on my phone or just listen to music and just be happy with that and not feel like, oh, I'm not doing this or I'm not getting anything done. No, you actually are getting something done.
Right. By resting. Exactly.
Exactly.
I think it's hard. I think after you have a child, after you give birth to a human and just that whole becoming a mother, it is so hard to still be intentional about that, especially in those first months, years. It requires so much of your attention, and you have to actively think about it. So putting it on the schedule is something that I try my best to do when I know it's something that I'm doing every day. Putting it on my schedule is like, okay, I'm seeing it. Here it is. Now I can, okay, like my massage appointment's coming up or my nail appointment's coming up, I think for me, I think I talk about this a lot, but I love yoga. I think yoga is something or just even stretching in general. I think stretching in general is so important to the body and just me physically. Like we're waxers, we use our body all day long. We're literally exerting out so much energy. So I think it's important for us to stretch, don't want to pull a hamstring while we're in the middle of a Brazilian.
I agree. And I don't think there's enough emphasis on that at all. Like we do physical labor and that's why I like massages so much. But yoga, do you take yoga classes? Do you do it by yourself?
I'm just on YouTube. Just
okay,
girl. Yes. So, YouTube has everything on there. So I just go to YouTube, and now I'm trying to get up earlier than everybody else in my house because I just think there's power in waking up sooner before everyone else to kind of get yourself together. I have not done this yet. So this is something that I'm trying to I did this at a period of time, but not recently. So I'm trying to get back into it. It's just so hard. But getting up earlier than what I usually do, either it's like an hour maybe before I have to like get all the kids up and do all the, things in the morning for school. think doing that like right before the day gets started helps me feel like I'm taking up space for me first before I'm giving out. Because if you're empty, you have nothing to give. So,
very true. I would love to get up earlier than my son. I don't know if it's his age or what, but sometimes, well, I guess I co-sleep, so maybe that doesn't help. But I feel like if I get up around maybe 5, like he might sense I'm not there and then just wake up. And I'm like, dang it. I've had some instances where I've been able to enjoy it. And it is blissful. Like I wake up and he's not awake, and
yes.
I just get to just take my time and do stuff. And I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I need to do this every day. But unfortunately, I can't do it every day. Yes. But I definitely can tell the difference when I can do it versus when I can't or don't.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so our challenge, or let's see, what challenge would you give to our listeners to help kind of maybe combat a little bit of procrastination, a little bit of negative self-talk that they might be kind of struggling with in this season? What's a challenge that you can kind of put out there for everybody, including yourself?
Affirmations. Affirmations is probably one of the best ways to combat negative self-talk, in my opinion, because it's very easy to be in your head. But reciting affirmations is important, but also reading them. So what I would say is get some sticky notes and write the affirmations that are your favorites and just put them, around your house, maybe in the bathroom mirror or by your bed or somewhere like that. And then that way, as you're walking around the house doing your normal thing, you see them. So I think that's important, because like something doesn't go your way and you're like, oh man, should have did this. I should have did this. You are amazing and beautiful. I am amazing and beautiful.
Exactly.
Instantly switches your mindset. And so that's something I try to do on my page as well. On Instagram, is I've started making these little affirmations and posting them, and just for others to read too. So yeah.
I love that. Okay, challenge accepted. I'm going to do that this week, and I'm gonna post about it. So I want to see everybody's posts on their little stories and tag us and let us know that y'all accepted the challenge.
Yes, girl. Get creative with it. Get like the heart-shaped sticky notes, or get like a pink pen or whatever. Just something to make it like really personal to you that makes you happy.
Yes, love it. Okay, Ausha. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And yes.
Likewise. Yes. I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me. I feel good. It feels nice to be able to talk to you about waxing and just talking about what we're passionate about, and about the things that we can very much relate to is very, very helpful. It just feels good,
Yes, it feels so good. It does. I can't lie about it. All right, girlie. Well, we will chat with you later, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care. Bye.